other day, the Human Rights Commission informed us that there's 2 more complaints that have been made about us, in regards to us. We're in the process now of trying to get all these massive complaints heard at one time, or else this could take about 2 or 3 years in testimony and in time for our evidence. So the 2 more complaints, the first early indication is that they want to have a separate tribunal, so they want to hold 2 tribunals now and try to tie us up for a little while. We told you in the last meeting that we're planning on making them work for this. We're not going to roll over and let them do it in 2 or 3 days. We're going to take them through the entire process. They're going to call expert witnesses. We're going to call expert witnesses. For those of you who may not be aware, the Canadian Human Rights Commission has charged us under a section 13, subsection 1. And this deals with having a telephone message. The person picks up a telephone, they dial the number, and they hear, "Thank you for calling the Heritage Hotline," etc., 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 in our message. Now, a person would have to be an absolute moron after 20 seconds not to figure out what this message is all about. But somehow, a number of liberals, and I guess I can mention the one individual's name, I think you all know him, a member of the Native community, I suppose had to call this thing up about 29 times. You figure if he got offended, he wouldn't call it back, but he kept on calling it up every second day, writing down his little notes and how outraged he was and how shocked and appalled he was. But we're going to be going to court too. And obviously we're going to have to fight it. Because as I said before, it's going to be an awfully, awfully whole day in hell before we're going to stop our fight and roll over and die for these parasites. When we start to do a little research about this, we find out that Section 13, subsection 1 is a unique statute within this particular act of Parliament. And let me tell you, the only cases on record for this particular section: Canadian Human Rights Commission hearing, Western Garden, John Ross Taylor, Canadian Human Rights Commission hearing, Terry Law and Aryan Nations, Canadian Human Rights Commission hearing against the Canadian Liberty Network, which is out of Vancouver, and now our case. I don't suppose that there's some reason for this, is there? That maybe it's just us that they're trying to silence? Anyway, they're getting quite aggressive now. We've asked, in a Canadian court of law, and I'll just quickly explain this to you, when it's alleged that you've committed some offense, what happens prior to the trial is something called disclosure. It's a process known as disclosure, in which the Crown or the person doing the alleging has to supply you with the evidence that they intend to present against you at a trial. And the reason for this, it was felt, was that this would give the defendant or the defense an adequate time to prepare a defense against charges. The Canadian Human Rights Commission, when they charge you under this section, are under no obligation to make any disclosure to you. So the first time you find out what the evidence is against you is when we sit in the committee hearings. So as you can probably, or as you probably figured out already, this is an uphill battle. This is not a level playing field. There's no rules to this game. It's stacked. They have the resources, they have the lawyers, they have the expert witnesses, they have the complainants, and we have to sit there, and the first time we find out what we're actually being accused of in any great detail is when we walk into that commission hearing room.
Presumption of guilty. Automatic presumption of guilty.
Yeah, it's also a reverse onus charge. He's right. We're guilty until we can prove ourselves innocent, which is something else that's supposed to, in a democracy, not supposed to happen. Anyway, our enemies of free speech have, I guess, decided that they don't want to rush into this because they're waiting. They picked a date in October for this to be heard. Now, I'm not going to get into the intricacies of how the commission works and how they pick the panel and how that process goes, but I can tell you from the work that we've done so far, it stinks. There's no fairness, and quite frankly, well, not that we expected there to be any, but there's absolutely no fairness We have the prosecutor who picks the judges. There's going to be 3 of them. They could give us 1 judge, but if they gave us 1 judge, that meant that if we wanted to appeal, we would appeal to the Human Rights Commission Appeals Tribunal. They pick 3 judges, so that the only way we can appeal is by spending a few $100,000 probably and going to federal court. So they crossed their T's and they dotted their I's. But they forgot one thing. You said it before, and we're going to say it again. A collection of appalling, genetic, parasitical misfits are not going to steal and take our rights away from us under any circumstances. We're now going to play their game. We're going to fight them every step of the way, and we're going to make this cost them an awful lot of money. So they won't think about doing it to the next group that starts up. I thank everybody for coming. I especially want to thank John and Tom Metzger for making this trip and helping us out the way that they did. Because like I said, this may be one of the last events we're going to be allowed to have, because the oppression is just mounting and mounting and mounting, and the time to fight's now. White power! 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 White power!